Hello, everybody. This is Tyler Trumbauer, and welcome to a brand new episode of the KOB Podcast, exclusively on the Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection YouTube page. We thank you all for tuning in for our new episode. If you missed any of our previous ones, we encourage you to check those out as well on our YouTube channel. And today we got a good one to wrap up 2020, the year that probably many of us would like to forget. We want to wrap it up with several of our key members of our sales team here at Kistler O'Brien, our 4 service sales reps, Jason Evans, Randy Bergstresser, Brett Marinelli, and Andrew Perry are joining me here for this episode to look back at 2020, how the coronavirus pandemic has impacted businesses, both big and small, the ones that we are dealing with as our customers on the front lines, as well as how it has impacted how these 4 gentlemen have conducted their business here amidst a global health crisis, and what that will mean for us doing business as a life safety partner moving forward in 2020. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining me today. And Andrew, I kind of want to start this conversation off with you. 2020, as I said at the top, has impacted everybody in a different way, in some way, shape, or form. When you look back, I mean, this has almost been 9 months. We're in this pandemic now, when things really started to break in mid-March. How has it impacted you in your daily life as a service sales rep?
I would say probably the biggest thing, and I think a lot of us would say this in various roles, is working remotely and the change in how we manage our time. It's probably been the toughest thing for me, because I've been doing this for 12, 13 years now, and you get into a groove, you have your what works for you, and then this hit, and just being on the road, being out in front of people, that's kind of what I thrive on. And that was obviously taken away. So trying to figure out how to manage your time best, to be effective as a salesperson, and at the same point, maintain those relationships and, gain new relationships as well. It's tough to do that. And then also you have the wild card factor, working from home with the little ones running around, and those are the best distractions you can have. But, time management, I think, was probably the biggest thing that I had to adjust to. And I think a lot of us, a lot of us in various roles throughout the company would probably say the same thing. So
certainly how to be socially distant. And then now I think the phrase is physically distant. So how can we still socialize while being physically distant from each other? Brett, kind of the same question to you. I know you're the type of guy that likes to go knock on doors and just introduce yourself to these people. But now, like Andrew said, most people aren't in an office location. And 2, if they are, they probably are limiting guests and visitors. How has this impacted your strategy here this year?
See, at first there was a big question mark because everybody was kind of like, how long is this going to last? What's going to happen? There was a lot of question marks when it first hit. So with me, for the first couple weeks, it was a big adjustment because I had to reevaluate how I was doing my business and not knocking on those doors. But I was able to use, the social media platforms, the LinkedIns, and still reach out to my customer base, whether that be new customers or existing, and let them know that, we're here for anything that you need. We are considered essential, and these services that we provide you are essential, and they need to be handled. So that was the biggest thing for me, was transitioning from going out and just walking in somewhere to using the LinkedIns of the world and sending the emails and picking up the phone and, making those phone calls and introducing myself. But that was the biggest thing that I ran into.
What were those first few weeks like for you, trying to navigate doing your job, promoting life safety, ensuring your customers are still taken care of and not missing important service and maintenance and installation, while basically we're under a stay-at-home order from our state officials?
Oh, it was tough. North Jersey's my territory, and they were hit very hard, and they were under a lot of restrictions. So, I mean, I'm one that likes to get out to the customer, shake their hands, put face to face, and make them feel comfortable about who they're dealing with for their fire protection needs. So, I mean, I had to reach out in different manner this time. I had to social media, got hooked up on LinkedIn, other ways to communicate since I couldn't get face-to-face with customers.
Jason, obviously all the guys have talked about how they're trying to reevaluate. I mean, you're salespeople, you're people by nature. That's why you're in your job and you're successful at what you do. But how have you seen the relationship change with the business owners? How have you seen that kind of change how you interact with business owners and business owners interact with you? Because I don't think business owners across every sector have faced the challenges they have this year like they ever have before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was forced to adapt, and using technologies like Zoom and the Microsoft Teams and the social medias. A lot of my bigger businesses, that have hundreds of employees, they were affected a little different than my small, mom and pop businesses. I think the smaller mom and pop businesses, they had to lay off employees. They had to think outside the box and maintain their establishments. All the modifications that they had to do, to make the public feel safe, to frequent their establishments, had quite a toll on them. And then, with my bigger businesses, a lot of my contacts I talked to, their setbacks were, employees getting sick, or employees just not feeling safe, to come into work. And that had a direct effect on their production. And just the added costs that, big or small businesses had to endure, for safety measures, wasn't budgeted, prior to Corona. So,
you down in the Delaware Valley, they were also hit fairly hard early on, the big cities that have been impacted, especially in that March and April wave. What did you see from business owners, and especially now in the city of Philadelphia, where they have even stricter restrictions than the rest of the Commonwealth have seen throughout of this, where, indoor dining has been limited more often and other restrictions? What have you seen from the business owners that you deal with daily?
Sure. So that's a great question. And to add on to the last question tied into that, to this, another challenge in regards to that is, in my individual territory, like you said, Philadelphia, the shutdown affected those businesses differently than Montgomery, Bucks County, Chester County, Delaware County. So trying to really read the room and stay in tune with my customers and the different levels of challenges that COVID provided for them. That was another unique thing. So that was definitely tough. Philadelphia, they have their own unique set of problems, the business owners that I talk to there, that are different from Montgomery and Bucks. But that also gives me an opportunity to, understand what their problems are and address them on a case-to-case basis based on where, they're located best. So it helps me kind of, it's been very important to maintain the relationships we do have in each area so that I can gauge what problems other people could potentially be having in those areas. So it's been crazy because, like you mentioned, my territories, had various, levels of cases and obstacles caused by those.
Brett, we talked about the communication with all of these business owners, and as Jason alluded to, just the sheer cost of operating during these times. Revenues down, expenses through the roof right now. PPE, other, people are improving their HVAC systems and their air filtration and things like that. What has your message been to these business owners who still need to keep up on their life safety inspections and maintenance, while they're also trying to do everything they can to save money because they don't know whether next week their business is going to be limited or even worse, shut down? What's been your kind of communication with them?
The biggest thing that I used was you have to have empathy for them. It's big. You really feel for especially the mom and pops. Which there are a lot here in the Lehigh Valley, a lot of restaurants that we handle, and the different places like that, the smaller businesses. So you really gotta, you have to feel bad for them, because it was a shock to everybody. So it was just reiterating, life safety. If they were shut down for a certain amount of time, hey, maybe we don't do your inspection while you're closed. We'll wait, a couple months till you open back up, and when you're ready, we'll get you rocking and rolling, and we'll get you back up to business, back up and get your inspections squared away for you. So that was a big thing with me. The other thing was, especially when they shut down the construction sites, that was another big thing because, I do deal with a lot of general contractors and warehouses in the Lehigh Valley. They're going up everywhere. So when that shut down that was big, it had an effect. But you just stayed in contact with them, and they reached back out to us once they were back up and running and let us know, what they needed, and just make sure that you're there when they need you. That was the biggest thing. Just making sure that they know whenever they're ready, we're going to be there for them. We've been in business for over 87 years now, and we're not going anywhere. We are essential, and we have whatever you guys need.
And Randy, for you, obviously you talked about your area in New Jersey. So you're trying to balance, what their rules and restrictions and safeguards that are in place right now, and trying to understand how that impacts, because, the New Jersey state officials are doing a little something different than the Pennsylvania state officials. So trying to understand what their current guidelines are. What have you seen from the business owners in New Jersey who have been dealing with a different set of guidelines and restrictions and different waves of cases than Brett or Jason's business owners, and different than Andrew's business owners, as we talked about earlier with the city of Philadelphia?
Well, even when they were able to open back up, they were under strict guidelines. And we actually sent out a flyer for our customers to do a checklist before they let people get back into their facilities, just to keep everybody safe and make sure their fire protection systems are up to par.
This new normal and all the things we've gone through this year, in your opinion, Jason, how do you see this impacting the businesses you serve, the business that you conduct moving forward in 2021 and post this coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, well, I think we all learned a lot. I realized that, the brick and mortar of the world, they're still needed for warehousing and manufacturing, but outside of that, we also learned many jobs can be performed remotely. I project, many businesses, could downsize their operations moving forward. Sadly to say, but I think we had no choice, and we're doing the best we can with what we got. And I mean, with today's technology, life goes on. Life safety is no different than health safety. The pandemic opened the eyes for many, and you can't put a cost on a life. So adapt to change, and start budgeting for the unexpected.
And Brett, what do you see with the people you work with, and how maybe you need to adapt permanently after all of this is over, 2021, 2022, in this new normal?
Again, it's the utilization of the technology that's out there. It's nice now that from a business and a sales standpoint, and a lot of customers are adapting to the technology, and very open to using it. Whereas when you first started, they were kind of like, yeah, I don't know how to use that, or when you're trying to set up meetings. But now a lot of the businesses and everybody they're up to par with it, and they have whether it's the Zoom or the Microsoft Teams. So that's been very beneficial with tapping into the market, and the expansion here in the Lehigh Valley. The medical buildings, the hospitals, all those. I mean, you got hospitals going up everywhere, and it's very important for them to have their inspections done, especially in the middle of a pandemic when they're at full capacity. So, with us being able to, and our company supplying our techs with the proper PPE, and having our techs tested every morning before they hit the road, and knowing that they're in good health and that they can go into these locations and service them, that has been very beneficial for for me, and not holding the customers back from getting the inspections that they need. And moving forward, they understand that, hey, things are going to change. It's, when with billing and with, contracts, all that kind of stuff. It's just all changed, and it's not so much in person anymore as it is over the phone, email, Teams, LinkedIn, all that stuff.
How thankful are you and your thoughts on the technicians of how they've been able to step up as well, adapt and change on the fly, and can you continue to be on the front lines through all of this?
Oh, we couldn't do it without our technicians. I'm very thankful. And they were, dealing with the strict guidelines. They had their masks on, which was a difficult task. They had to learn how to work with them. They kept their gloves on. They sanitized their tools. They social distanced. I mean, life safety is our goal, and we just wanted to take care of our customers and keep our technicians safe at the same time.
Very good point. And Andrew, what do you feel like this new normal will bring for you and your customer base in the areas that you serve, and kind of what you've already may see a trend going that way, expedited by what's happened over the last few months?
Sure. So I'm going to put a different spin on this, I guess. So a positive spin. Something that I've seen and taken from this is with all the changes that are happening and that we're having to adjust to, and the lack of social interactions that we're having, I think people are looking for a sense of normalcy and comfort and relation. So we have an opportunity as service salespeople in the life safety industry in particular, when people are already concerned enough about, are my facilities and are my employees protected? We have an opportunity to really develop a new level of trust with our customers. I think that's extremely important, and that's invaluable. That's something that I've noticed, because when I know a lot of my facilities contacts aren't on site every day. They're there maybe 3 days a week, and then their sites are their babies, that they've watched after those facilities for decades. So to have that trust that that person's going to pick up the phone at 11 o'clock at night, when you have an emergency, that's happened a few times during the pandemic. And, to be able to respond to those calls and separate ourselves from the competition by having a personal relationship with our customers. That's something that I'm really hoping to, that this continues to go in that direction, and we can capitalize, just by developing deeper relationships with our customers, and hopefully in turn getting referrals, because that's the best type of, that's the best thing that we can get as salespeople is, referrals, and then we can develop those relationships. So I'm excited about that as far as change goes with this.
And Jason, we are an essential business. We have been since day one, since that label has been coined back in March during the stay-at-home orders here in Pennsylvania and across the country. And throughout it all, we've actually been actively hiring for people. Unemployment was at like the highest it has been in years earlier in the pandemic, due to temporary closures and unfortunately permanent closures now. But how do you feel about KOB, how they've handled this whole pandemic, and what you would tell to anybody that's looking to potentially, join the KOB family, based on what from the company being here for years and how they've operated during these unprecedented times?
Well, I mean, I'm grateful that I work for an essential company. I mean, we're basically like a public utility. The show must go on. Life safety can't take a back seat. And I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, but my 3.5-year tenure, I tell people, if you tried working for the rest, it's time to come work for the best.
I like that. I don't know if we can beat that. And Randy, maybe I'll kind of get that to you as well. Someone that's been here, even longer than Jason, and you've been around the company for a bit in different roles, and kind of seeing it from a lot of different angles. What are your thoughts? Obviously, you've enjoyed your time here. That's why there's a lot of people that have been here for many years. But at the same time, like I said, I mean, we have more than a half a dozen open opportunities right now to join the company. Your thoughts and what you would kind of tell to someone that may have lost their job temporarily, maybe looking for an essential company to work for, or maybe just a change of pace or scenery.
Oh, I can only say one thing. Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection is the best company in the business. I mean, we do everything, fire extinguishers, kitchen, sprinkler, fire alarm, special hazard, even fire training, design, install, inspection and maintenance. I've been with the company for 22 years, and they promote growth within our company, our organization. They train you, they teach you to move up. So there's plenty of opportunities. Kistler O'Brien is a large company, large enough to take care of all your fire protection needs. But the thing that really gets me and that kept me with the company is it's more like a family, a fire protection family. They treat you like family.
Is there a story that you reflect back on, an interaction, a conversation you had with a business owner that maybe will stick out to you about, how this has impacted them and your relationship with them? Any of you feel free to jump in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a church in the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, we must have been like 2 weeks in, and finding masks and stuff at that time wasn't the easiest thing to do. So, I had my mask on. It was just, regular, paper mask. And I walked in and the guy says, "Oh man," he says, he goes, you guys go out a lot and do these things." And I said, "Yeah, I go out." I said, "It's slowed down a little bit here and there." He says, "Well, I want to make sure that you're protected." And he opens his closet and he hands me a box full of N95 masks, where at the time you couldn't get them anywhere. And he said, "Here," he says, "you need these. You guys need these more than we need them here." He said, "Give them to your technicians, give them to your people." And I couldn't be more thankful. I was just blown away that he was just willing to just hand those over to us, and how thankful he was that we were still coming out to assist him with his life safety needs. Um, and another customer that we just brought on board, they weren't getting the service that they were supposed to from their current provider. So they called us up, and I mean, the turnaround time, we were able to get out there within 48 hours, and it's a large corporation, and get them exactly what they needed. And they were very thankful. And, he has contacts all over the Lehigh Valley with, the bigger corporations. So he was able to pass my name along and, say, "Hey, Kistler O'Brien, I wasn't getting it from my previous provider. They wouldn't show up. The pandemic, they said they were busy with other things right now. They would get to us when we could. But I called Kistler O'Brien, and they had somebody out here in 48 hours, and then he was able to relay that to, his friends in the business. And, it all worked out. And, we were able to help them out and get them what they needed. And in turn, they were able to help us out and, turn it around and give us some more customers. So
Certainly, and those are two great stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll chime in, Tyler, on that note as well. I know we talked about empathy being important. We also talked about being a lot more focused on LinkedIn and social platforms for communication. Naturally, with that being the case, I'm able to see, unfortunately, a result of this is people losing their jobs. And you see that on LinkedIn updates, so-and-so's looking for a job. And 2 months ago, you were working with them trying to get their fire systems back up to speed. You also see the opposite. There's companies such as ours that there's increased demand just based off of what they do, and they're hiring. So being able to make those connections, there's been a few opportunities to do that, to kind of say, "Hey, I know you're looking for someone. I know this guy's a great guy and he does a great job. I think there might be a good fit." And just bringing those two together, that's an opportunity that I've been thankful for it. And I hope those relationships work out. But, I think we all need to come together and look out for each other and try to, make those connections.
Yeah. I'll just say a few words here. Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me is, when businesses were shut down, when they did flick the switch, they needed us to be there, to make sure their sprinkler systems, their fire extinguishers, everything was up to par. And, I know a couple small business owners as well, had said to me, hey, look, when they said we could open, we want to open tomorrow, but, there was, they had to get up with the code and whatnot. And, they were thankful that we were there, in a pinch, to get them up and running as quickly as possible so they could get back to, normalcy.
Guys, once again, thank you. I appreciate your time today for joining us for this episode of the podcast. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your insight today. And thank you all, our viewers, for tuning in for our final episode of the KOB podcast here in the year 2020. We want to thank you all who have viewed our handful of episodes that we've had previously. Please check them out if you have not done so already on our YouTube channel. And don't be upset. We'll be back with more episodes in 2021. I'm Tyler Trumbauer with Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection. We'll talk to you then.